we have to take customers on a journey with us. I think we have to take a company on a journey with us. And I think that means taking the leadership on a journey of evolution, but one that's grounded in outcomes. I think we have to speak the language of the organization financially. What's the EBITDA that we're trying to hit? What's the margins that we're trying to create? What's the cost to serve that we're trying to reduce? The revenue trying to grow? Like I feel like we tend to talk in quite soft language when it comes to CX and marketing and transformation in general, because it's such a powerful cultural change moment. But in doing so, we also forget that businesses have to be a business and have to operate in a certain way. They either have
Yeah.
shareholders, they're trying to talk to a board of directors, they're running quarterly reports, they're trying to hit a certain target in a few years time. So I think it's trying to establish, okay, that North Star that I talked about at the beginning, what is it grounded in terms of financial benefit? What's the rigor that you're going to drive off the back of it? And then essentially, how are we going to get to it? And that's where I think the most work has to come into it. And that's why I say we have to bring them on a journey, because you require a leadership team that is willing to be advocates, willing to be champions, but also willing to be patient. And I think in order that patience piece is a really difficult one because it's somewhat counterproductive to the financial goal and business. And I think that's where we have to start getting into, rather than um 12 monthly cycles of budgets and long range plans, we get much more into operational planning and operational forecasting, where essentially you can say, okay, in 3 months' time, this is where I need to be based upon my end state. And in 3 months' time, when you track and determine how far you've got, if you've missed your outcomes, well, that means you've got a harder hill to climb over the next 3 months in order to get there, rather than reforecasting and pushing the timeline out at the end. I feel we've got to
Yeah.
get back into a better space where everybody's held in a much more tighter operating position to say the outcomes aren't changing, the goalposts aren't moving. In 3 years' time, we have to hit the following numbers. And in order to get there, we've got to track very, very closely. We've got to measure. And then as we come close to hitting targets or missing targets, then challenges have to then start to be reinvented. And you have to say, okay, well, I still got to get there in 3 years' time. So what do I need to do differently? How do I need to challenge things differently? Is there more funding required? Is there a different way of solving the problem required? And bringing everybody on the journey means having them all around the table so that you're actually debating those challenges at the same time.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part, because I feel in especially in CX, in the world of CX and digital transformation as it has been, it's always kind of been held off to the side, and there's always been a lot of talk about integrating deep into the organization, hub and spoke models versus separate silos. But really, ultimately, what you need a governance group that is not willing to change, and then not willing to come away from the targets or the outcomes that have been put in place. And by having that, how you achieve it can continue to change and should, based upon everything you learn along the way. What you're
Mm,
going to achieve should always remain in place. And I think that creates a different kind of pull that maybe drives a much more positive and much more successful outcome.
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to digest here. But do you think like leaders should also need to learn what's the new industry looks like
I
down the
mean,
line?
everybody should be learning. But yes, I mean, look, if you're a leader and you're not learning and you're not educating yourself, then you shouldn't be a leader. That's the reality of it. And if you're not interested, then maybe it's come time to move on. Everybody has to learn, and everybody has to be willing to figure out why this is different and how it's what needs to change. I think the challenge though is everything is so busy. How do you create the space and the time? And that's where people like myself and others, um at the roles that I've done, that was our jobs, to make sure that you kept it top of mind, found ways of constantly educating so that you had a personal pull by wanting to know more, but you also had somebody kind of constantly filling your cup up with more information all the time. But yes, I 100% agree with you. Don't like Knowledge is power, and we should always be continuing to learn. we will never not need to learn what's coming next.